It's Saturday in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and I want to talk to you about love. Sounds like a Valentine's kind of a subject, doesn't it? But really, it's a very important subject as we think about our relationship to God. You remember that was a question that Jesus asked Peter. Do you love me? And so I started thinking about that, and I remember back, although it's been a lot of years ago, how I felt about Lois and how I loved her. I can think of a couple of other girls when I was in junior high school and high school that I thought I loved. And the test of love comes quickly in how much you're willing to give of your time, your talent, and your money. Do you really love them? You know, it's an interesting question. But I remember when I really was convinced that I loved Lois, it didn't matter how much time, it didn't matter how much talent, it didn't matter how much of my money was necessary to show her my love. I wanted to show her that I loved her. So when Jesus asks us, do we love him? I need you to ask yourself, how much of your time are you willing to give him? How much of your talent are you willing to give him? And how much of your tithe are you willing to give him? I found three things that I thought we ought to think about when we think about how much we love Jesus. The first question is, why aren't you sharing your faith? Why aren't you teaching? Why aren't you doing the things that take your talents? And I think the answer is, we want to be soil experts, give our opinion of soil, rather than sowers of the seed. That is, we'd like to qualify, well, that person's not ready, or that person's not the right kind of person, or I don't have time, or they don't have time, or they're not interested. We want to be judging the soil instead of sowing the seed. The second area was in comparison to others. Do I love Jesus? Well, do I love him more than somebody else? Am I going to church more often than the average? Do I do more than the average person does? Are we constantly comparing ourselves with others? That's exactly what happened with Peter and John when Jesus said to Peter, come follow me. And Peter said, what about John? Do you remember what Jesus replied about that? Jesus said, what is that to you? You come follow me. I think a lot of us are too busy comparing our extent of our love with how other people love Jesus. And then the third area is, do you love him as he asked Peter? Now, there's been a lot of speculation on whether or not the first time Peter responded that, he used the Greek word for, I have a brotherly love for you. I love you like a brother. And Jesus said, no. Peter, do you love me? And a lot of people say the second time that he answered with an answer that was a different Greek word. I have a deep affection for you. That is, I love you like a son loves a mother, or as a person that has a relationship with a wife or a husband loves, usually. And then Jesus asked him again, no, Peter, do you love me? Now this time we believe the word was probably agape love. That is a sacrificial, non-self-centered, a giving more than a taking kind of love. A deep, godly love. Peter, do you love me? You know, it's really interesting because Peter's answer in verse 17 will cut you to the quick if you really apply it to your own life. He said, Lord, you know all things. You know I love you. And there is the key. God sees our heart. We can use whatever word we want to. We can use a brotherly love, a deep affection, or we can use sacrificial love. We can use any one of the words. I mean, if somebody asks me, how do you like ice cream? I say, I love ice cream. Well, obviously, that kind of love is not the same kind of love that I have for Lois. But you know what? God sees the heart. He knows what kind of love we have for him. So let me ask you those 3 questions again. Why aren't you sharing your faith? Why are you so busy comparing yourself with others instead of what you really ought to be doing if you love him? And it doesn't matter what kind of words you say. God sees the heart. He knows all things. He knows whether you love him or not, because it shows in what you do for him. That's your thought for the day. God bless you. Have a great day.